Welcome to Bull TV, where we're bullish on Collierville and the Mid-South. I'm your host, David Pickler. Bull TV is a monthly show that empowers, educates, and entertains while highlighting the people who inspire and deliver solutions for a stronger community. Bull TV is presented by Pickler Companies and proudly produced by the students of Collierville High School. We invite you to watch our show at www.bulltv.show, thebullnetwork.com, and CHS-TV 19. New episodes air on the second Sunday of every month at 3 p.m. Central Time. On today's show, we welcome John Selberg, Fire Chief of Collierville Fire and Rescue. Join us as we explore John's dedicated path to leadership in emergency services. We'll discuss his transformative roles from volunteer firefighter to chief, his impact on fire safety, and his strategic approach to emergency management. Don't miss this engaging conversation with John, a committed leader and innovator determined to enhance community safety and wellness. Today I'm joined by John Selberg. As Fire Chief of Collierville Fire and Rescue, John has cemented his legacy in public safety since joining the town of Collierville in July of 2022. A graduate of the University of Memphis, Chief Selberg's journey in fire services commenced in 1977 as a volunteer firefighter in Germantown. Rapidly ascending to roles as firefighter EMT, as Department Lieutenant, Battalion Chief, Fire Marshal, Assistant Fire Chief, and eventually Fire Chief, Chief Selberg also excelled as the Emergency Management Director for the City of Germantown, collecting numerous awards and accolades along the way. His contributions are marked by commitment to excellence and community safety, reflecting a career dedicated to service and leadership. His proactive involvement in emergency management has significantly enhanced the capabilities and response strategies of his teams, making a measurable impact in the region. John Selberg is not only a decorated leader, but also visionary in fire safety and emergency preparedness, whose efforts have steered his department toward modernization and increased efficiency. His legacy is characterized by steadfast dedication to protecting lives and properties, while also fostering a culture of continuous improvement and excellence within the fire service community. John is married to Tina, and they have two adult children, Ashley and John William. Chief Selberg, thank you very much for joining us on Bull TV.
Thank you, David.
We're glad to have you. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched our show, but we always begin the same way. We ask our guests, a few questions, but the first is always this. In 3 words, who is John Selberg?
It's tough, but I would say compassionate service developer.
So if you can explain that a little, go a little further. What does that mean?
So first off, I find in this job you have to be compassionate for what you're doing, have a lot of passion for what you're doing. We serve the public, and so I'm trying to develop services to do that with. And part of my job is developing the people that provide those services as well as developing those services.
That's great. So, you've been doing this for quite a while. So what was the motivation for you to start this great career in firefighting going all the way back to 1977?
So interestingly, I was never looking to be a firefighter.
Okay.
My dad was a pilot in the Air Force and FedEx, and I wanted to be a pilot, but I didn't have the sight to go into the military as a pilot. So at Germantown High School, they had a program where they would allow volunteers to be in high school.
Okay.
And so I got on as a volunteer firefighter I was actually 16 years of age, and they would call us out of school for the big fires, and 16, 17 years of age, I was fighting fire out there, and
That's pretty cool.
Of course, every fire lasted until school was over, So,
of course it did.
So, they took a little while sometimes, particularly if they started early in the day. But then I saw an opportunity to go full-time on the department and kind of help pay my way through college. And I had 2 younger brothers, and I thought that would allow my dad to help them and not worry so much about me. So I started paying my way. And then as I graduated, I saw a lot of the stuff I was learning in business management and HR was applicable to what I was doing there. And I thought, well, I could actually use some of this here on the job. And so I got on the department and went full-time, moved my way up through the ranks, and then went on through grad school and kept moving up and just loved applying what I learned in school.
That's amazing. So how did the early experiences that you had as a volunteer firefighter shape your approach to the role that you have today?
So, the first thing was you get in this job kind of for the excitement and the thrill of helping people, being that person that when everything's going bad, you know what to do and you can get in there and help. So that was probably the first part of it. But, for many of us, you say it's kind of a calling, but it's it's not just a job. You do this because you enjoy it. Those men and women out there on those fire trucks, when they have that direct involvement with a customer, they do something good for them. You have that instant reward that you know that you help someone. That's why a lot of them like the medical side of the field, because we're able to do so much for people in their worst times. So I never wanted to let that go why I want to become a firefighter, even though I do a lot of the administrative work and everything, but I still want to take myself back to the roots of what really became a firefighter was to help people.
I love it. I can't think but that the concept of a volunteer fire department may be that most uniquely American heritage and people giving back. My nephew is actually the fire chief in Marble, Arkansas. And there have been many times that we've been together for a family gathering, and the call will come. And so again, I have such great love for that concept of community. That really being that volunteer firefighter is all about, and that's what you're talking about is that giving back and sharing with the community and doing something for your fellow man.
And most of your firefighters across the country are volunteer firefighters.
Yeah.
It's
That's
cool.
amazing. But I think that again is when you think of the firefighter, that's what you think of. Is someone who's just constantly giving back and going that extra step.
Yep.
So if you would describe the journey that really led you to become the chief of Collierville Fire and Rescue.
Well, it started with a great experience I had at Germantown, working through the ranks. I got to experience a lot of different things there. I served as fire marshal, so I had a lot of involvement with code enforcement and public education and things like that. And then all through my career, I've worked very closely with Collierville already. I was good friends with the chiefs and fire marshals. We did a lot of work together. I knew a lot of the firefighters. We do mutual aid together, so we fought fire a lot together.
Sure.
So I knew a lot of them. And as we went through the vaccination site, I worked with them and even got closer with them. And I knew that they were getting ready to go through some stuff on the department, like the new ambulance service they were taking over. I'd been involved in taking over the ambulance service in Germantown several years ago, and they're going through a lot of growth that I've gone through. They're doing new stations. They were going through a lot of things that I felt like I could be helpful for, and I thought, I can help these guys. I want to help them grow, and one of my goals is really to have a firefighter enjoy his job, and a firefighter enjoys his job gives great customer service. They do a great job for the community.
Well, I want to follow it just a little bit about the whole idea of converting from, I guess, a county ambulance service to doing as you did in Germantown and Collierville. What would you think is the biggest benefit that these communities have been able to enjoy because y'all made this commitment to make that change?
So the biggest advantage, and what really is to the firefighters, because in Germantown and Collierville, both of them, all of the firefighters are already cross-trained as advanced emergency medical technicians or paramedics.
Right.
So we're the first responders. We were out there giving all that care, and then we're turning them over to a private service.
Right.
To be honest, we didn't always know if the private service was going to give that same level of care that we wanted to give them. By having our own ambulance service, we're able to stay with that patient all the way to the hospital, become their advocate, take care of them at the hospital, making sure they're took care of. Nowadays, because the hospitals get so backed up in the emergency rooms, they'll spend hours with them, and I hate to say it, in the hallway, taking care of them, making sure they're okay, and they get to know them, and particularly some of these older people that have multiple times to go, they get to know the paramedics that take care of them, and they're like, hey, there's Randy, and these people, so they get to know these guys, and that's what it's all about, is making sure the community gets the best care they can.
That's great. So if you would describe a day in the life of a fire chief.
I can't do it. I still don't know what it is.
So there is no normal, right?
There is no normal. It changes every day. It's really cool. I think that's one of the things that makes this job kind of special. But obviously, I do a lot of administrative work and do budgeting and finance and personnel issues and work on strategic planning and those type of things. But I also get to have a lot of interaction with the firefighters, talk to them about the calls. Sometimes, we get the bigger calls. I'll go with them on the calls and help them with it. So kind of reminds me while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of changing every day. We do a lot of training, so I try to participate in the training with the firefighters, and so it's never the same every day, but it's very rewarding.
So come on, you got to be honest here. Now, you really like to get out there with those ghost guys here and then, still, act like you're 20 years old again, fighting those fires.
I am still 20 years old. I definitely, they kind of think I'm putting them on, but I would rather be out there on a fire truck any day than in my office. It's much better out there.
Wow. Well, you talk about some of these great opportunities and things that really are so positive. Can you share a moment from your career that was particularly challenging, and how you were able to handle that?
So one of them that we went through it, and Collierville was experiencing it too, was back years ago. Most of the suburbs were losing firefighters to Memphis. Memphis was recruiting them, and the compensation wasn't comparable, and so we were kind of being considered the training grounds because we train a lot in the suburbs. Whereas, to be honest, Memphis, they do the basic training, but they don't have the opportunity because they're so busy.
Right.
So we were losing personnel, so we started working on trying to make us more comparable in compensation. And luckily, I worked with the city administrator, and we came up with a plan. And we were just going to try to get it to where we're paying enough and compensating people enough that it wouldn't be reason to leave. Mm-hmm. But I'll say fortunate, but Memphis ran into some times where they weren't able to give pay raises, and then they made some changes to their pension. Well, at the same time, our city administrator said, we're going to keep doing the pay raises, and it got us into a strong position where we were able to compete. So that was probably one of the more rewarding things. And then we even took a next step, is we started doing our own in-house rookie school, so we were training our own people. We wanted to create the culture of our people. And by training them ourselves in our own in-house rookie school, which was a lot of work, but it created our own people. So
absolutely. Wow.
It worked out for us.
So you talk about the rookie school. You talk about building that culture. What are the most critical skills that you believe that a firefighter must possess today?
So the first one, I kind of hinted on it earlier, but truly caring about people. If you don't care about taking care of people, don't become a firefighter, right? Because you're going to be expected to do that. And you can tell the difference, the guys that really get out there. And that's what I appreciate, is our personnel go above and beyond. An example is they'll transport someone to the hospital, but they take care of the family. Mm-hmm. Once they get the husband or the wife or whoever in the hospital and taken care of, they'll come out to the emergency room, waiting room, and tell the family member what's going on with them. They're not going to wait for the nursing staff to do it. And during COVID, they were actually going out in the parking lot and finding them because they couldn't even come in the emergency room.
Wow.
So they kind of go that extra mile. We, at a fire, we try to take care of them, make sure they have somewhere to stay. We try to go in there and recover as much of their personal items. So truly caring about people. Also, firefighters don't want to have something thrown at them that they don't know how to deal with. So we're always training to have that skill to address whatever comes up. We go into advanced training on, water rescue, confined space, rope rescue, a lot of things like that, hazardous materials, because we know it's going to happen sooner or later, and we want to have that training to address it. So you got to be well versed in that. And then nowadays, 2/3 of our call are emergency medical. So you have to be really good at emergency medical. And we will train you. We'll give you those skills, but you've got to be really good at that.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there's a tremendous amount of skills that you can help them develop, but they've got to begin with that basis of really having that desire to want to help people.
Character matters in the fire department. You've got to have that character that we're looking for before we can give you those skills. We can give you the skills. I got to have what's down here.
As you well know, that there's an organization that we're both very fond of, the Scouts, and the whole concept of character counts.
Exactly.
It absolutely does.
And be prepared.
Be prepared. Well, you talk about that. Well, we were very blessed to have Chief Dale Lane on shortly after the incident at Kroger, and he talked about the training that the police department had gone through, and the combined training that was done between the police and fire, and how all that came together, on that day, and so it is about constant training and preparation, so that when the amazing or unusual or tragic things happen, that you're able to take advantage of it and resolve the issue.
Exactly.
So you talked already about the issue of the vaccination, about how Germantown, Collierville were working together. In what other ways, or what ways do you collaborate with other emergency services to enhance community safety?
So in the fire service, we refer to it as mutual aid, but we rely on other fire departments a lot for backup, particularly for our big fires, or even for us, it's if we run out of ambulances, we're constantly calling another department, see if they have them, or if they have a big fire, we go help them, and we help them with ambulances. So we do a lot of mutual aid between each other. We also work closely with the police department out here. You just mentioned Dale. We actually have a good relationship between us all because we work so much together. We have that understanding, though we always have to keep picking on each other, but because we're police and fire. But we work real closely with them because we do a lot of calls, and I serve as the West Tennessee Mutual Aid Coordinator for the state. So I help coordinate all the big responses across, well, even other parts of the state. I help coordinate those. So I know where to get people, and also know how to plug our people in to help them with that. And I'm also involved in developing programs at the state level for incident management teams to go in and manage those large incidents. So I kind of do a lot of collaboration. I'm also on the state special operations committee that's developing different teams. And one of the interesting things about it, you mentioned me being on the task force, but I've gone to a lot of disasters, and I hate to say it, I've seen them run really good, and I've seen them run really bad.
Right.
And I kind of took that as a motivation when I came back that I don't want to allow that to happen in Tennessee. So I'm actually working at the state level trying to make sure Tennessee manages their incidents. And I think in preparedness-wise, we're in a lot better shape than a lot of states.
That's fantastic. Well, John, you and I know each other for a lot of years, and we both live in Germantown, and I was so thrilled when you got this job, and I never even thought that we could be that fortunate to have you with. Of course, you had decades of service in Germantown and did a great job, so we are so blessed. But let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about your philosophy on leadership and management within the department. What are the things that you have brought to the department here that really kind of puts your fingerprint on and your thumbprint on the way that y'all operate here in Collierville?
Well, probably it starts with leading by example. And setting a culture of what you expect, what you want. I try to push people at high levels, but if you do that, sometimes they're like, oh, okay, that's unreasonable. But then they start attaining it and they realize, oh, this is actually good. I like working at this level. And so I try to set high expectations, but also want them to be respectful of others. There's a lot of people think, just a firefighter, but I found a lot of times the brand new firefighters got some of the best ideas.
Good.
So I try to, open them up and realize, hey, you can learn a lot from these younger firefighters. And, this young firefighter right here, he's showing potential. He may be your boss one day. And the only difference a lot of times between a chief and a brand new firefighter is time.
There we go. There we go.
So I try to remind them of that. And, try to keep them focused on the overall objectives. In the fire service, ours is customer service. Taking care of those people, and the firefighters are actually the ones out there doing that. The firefighters on the trucks and the ambulances, and so the staff is really there just to support them. We talk about having ego or anything, but guys, we're just their support group.
With that question. Well, and the role the firefighters play is so essential in so many different areas. For example, the role they play in the schools. and you and I both have a common friendship and a gentleman by the name of Edgar Babian. And Edgar is famous in this community because he has one of the coolest antique fire trucks around, and that he brings out for community events. But I remember Edgar's role when he was the fire marshal in the schools, and really providing, not only great training and working to make sure the schools were safe, but creating that very comfortable environment where kids got to know him and had that great experience, of interacting with a firefighter and understanding why that was so important. And so again, having that management culture that encourages people to do that and be a huge part of the community is so important.
Yes.
Well, you talked a little bit about, you've been to some disasters and been to situations where they worked well and some where they didn't work well. So how do you prepare your department to handle large-scale emergencies or disasters?
So one thing I mentioned, I'm one of the developers for the state and one of the lead instructors for the incident management teams that go in, that basically trains them how to put together a team that manages a big disaster. And so I've been doing that at the state level, and I've actually got several of the Collierville firefighters are involved in this training with us. In fact, we recently, a couple of us went up there to Sumner County to help them with that search for that missing boy. Recently, we were helping with that. Also, as task force leader and also member of the incident support team, it's given me a lot of experience seeing how disasters work and the inner workings of how a disaster works, understanding all the different levels and that. So that's been very beneficial to me. And at the task force, we've got several Collierville firefighters that are some of the other leaders on that team. So that's helped out. And then a big part of it for us is training for those rare emergencies that could happen. I mentioned earlier about trench rescue, confined space, hazardous materials. Those are those rare emergencies that can really be dangerous. And so we do a lot of training on that, and we've got a very strong special operations program out here at Collierville that those guys are great. They've been sent off to do swift water to other states and often going out to Fayette County and other parts in Shelby County helping out teams. So we've got a real good capacity here.
That's fantastic. We've been here. We are here in Shelby County, and right here on this New Madrid Fault, and everybody keeps talking about sometime it's going to be the big one. Do y'all do any kind of training and preparation for like a massive earthquake?
So actually, that is the primary training for the Tennessee Task Force 1, the Urban Search Rescue Team. That was originally, the original purpose of that was for earthquakes. And so we've done that training, but then a lot more of our responses are probably more hurricanes and stuff like that with those smaller structures and everything. But their primary is actually the large concrete buildings and things like that. And it's a little more complicated, but having guys trained in it that know how to bring in resources. A good example was back in 1994 in Germantown when we had the tornado.
Yep.
I was already on the team, and I knew resources that I was calling before I was even on the scene there, and getting out to we had some searches that we had to do in some homes, and we've got a lot of guys that have some really good capability.
That's great. Yeah, I remember. I think it was around 1994 when there was that thought that we might be having that earthquake, and I was actually working downtown and the old NBC Bank building, and the day that it's supposed to happen, I had all the television cameras, pointing up. Okay, how's this day going to work out? So, what strategies do you use, John, to foster a culture of continuous learning in your department? Because you keep talking about training and preparation and be prepared. What are the things that they use, the strategies to really make that happen?
Well, first off, you think of the fire department, you think, they go out and they put water on fires. But we're constantly evolving in what we do, what we respond to. A good example is the new EVs fires, the electric vehicles. The challenges that those are presenting to us nowadays. So we're constantly looking at new ways to address the new challenges. The new home construction is changing, so we're looking at new ways to fight fire, believe it or not. So you look at a lot of that. We've got a lot going on with the emergency medical field that we're really on the cutting edge of some really cool stuff. One of them, we use the automatic CPR devices, which we refer to, it's called a Lucas. Then we're also part of a study right now that I'm really excited about. It's called Heads Up CPR. And they find that if you raise your head a little bit, you'll actually reduce the intracranial pressure and get better blood flow, which gives you a better chance of long-term survival after a
Wow.
heart attack. And so we've got this new device called an Eligard that we're testing out. We're one of several departments across the country that checks, and we're seeing how much that changes their survivability rate right now. And I'm really excited about that. And the paramedics, they love being on the cutting edge and trying to find the best way to help somebody survive. And they're really proud when they get a save.
I would imagine. I went through CPR training years and years and years ago, and I've been surprised at how much it's changed. The techniques that you use in CPR and these life-saving things. So when you're talking about the evolution of that, I mean, I can imagine is the cutting-edge stuff is just incredible.
Yeah. It never ends. I mean, we're constantly training. I probably put 200, 300 hours of training in every year just to try to stay up with everything. And the firefighters are doing even more than I am.
Wow, I love it. So what advice would you give to young firefighters who are aspiring to obtain leadership roles like what you've been able to accomplish in the future?
Well, the first part of it is you've got to be really good at what you're doing right now. Be really proficient as in the position that you're in, because you can't start looking at the next position until you know you're good at this one. And then start preparing yourself. Give yourself those core capabilities, those skills, certifications, things that you're going to need for that next position. Go ahead and start getting them long before you ever need them. Because the worst thing is have like promotions come up and guys like, oh, I need to get this, or oh no, it's too late.
Too late now.
It's too late now. But and then you're constantly pushing yourself to be better. And you'll see those people out there that are always trying to be better. They learn from their mistakes. They ask questions. They're always trying to do a better job and get out there. And again, certifications, all that is great. Diplomas, everything on the wall, but that only gives you something on the wall. It's what you do out there in the field that really matters.
Right.
And if you can't take all those certifications and make yourself a good firefighter, a good officer, then it hadn't done you any good. So you can't just rely on having those certifications. You got to really become a good officer out there.
So both the knowledge and the application of that knowledge.
Yep. And again, character matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the fire marshal. Discuss, if you would, the importance of community outreach and education in the whole area of fire safety.
Sure. What a lot of people don't think about, we're not there when most of these things happen. And we're not going to be there for a few minutes. So a lot of times the family is on their own, and sometimes that can be the most critical time.
Sure.
So we try to stress to them to be prepared, have their own plan in place, do what they can to reduce those fire risks and that type of thing. The having the smoke detectors, teaching your children how to escape. The worst thing we hate is to see an injury or even worse, a fire death that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
And so we try to give them those tools. And I know it's not exciting a lot of times. The kids get it, and they're usually the ones that come home and tell the parents, because that's what my kids did. But, trying to do what you can first to take care of your family so that by the time we get there, our job is easy. We hate to get to a fire and people say there's somebody trapped in there. So instead of everybody standing out there by the mailbox, we're all good. So that's the better way to do it, is take care of yourself.
Well, and I think it's continued to reinforce that, because we're talking about when that threat of the earthquake was back in the early '90s, and everybody did their disaster preparedness kits, and 4 or 5 years later, those kits probably hadn't been looked at again.
Oh yeah.
And or if you have a fire detector, a smoke detector, make sure that you're keeping the batteries in them. Or that if you have a fire extinguisher, make sure that you're getting those checked. And I know that you guys do an amazing job of going around the community and making sure that the fire detectors or the fire extinguishers are charged and ready to go. And so it's ongoing. It's just not just because you did it one time. If you bought that ladder for your second floor, make sure you know where it is.
Yeah.
So what message would you like to share with the residents of Collierville about their role in this whole idea of community safety?
Well, again, the fire department is kind of their support group. We're here to help you, but we're not going to be there when it happens. So you'll have the first responsibility for it, taking care of your family. And you mentioned us going around and doing inspections and stuff, but we don't do that in the homes.
Right.
So unless you call us to come over and look at something at your home, we don't normally go into them. Now we do, if we can make a call there at your home, even a medical call, a lot of times the guys go around, check your smoke detectors before we leave and things like that for you. But we don't normally go into the home. So you kind of have that responsibility yourself, but let us help you. Tell us what we can do to help. We have a lot of resources. We got a lot of smart people that would be glad to help. Just call us.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I've got to save this for towards the end of our conversation, but I want our viewers to know that that they have the opportunity now to hear from a real hero. And oh, don't roll your eyes now. You've mentioned a couple of times about the task force, and you know, this man has had the opportunity to serve for years as the leader of Tennessee Task Force One, as a task force leader, and you've had the opportunity and have responded to many very high profile and traumatic events, including 9/11 at the Pentagon, the Haiti earthquake, Hurricane Katrina. Discuss, if you would, your role as leader and how you were able to remain calm and during such devastating events, and be professional, do the things that you've done to make such a difference.
Well, the first part of it about remaining calm is it's kind of like when you handle regular emergencies here. You focus on what you need to do instead of the excitement of the situation, and you can concentrate on your role there. And that's what we often do is we get in there, we more look at, okay, what do we need to do to help? Not, oh my gosh, look at all this.
Yeah.
And so we stay focused on what we're doing and stay calm. Be honest with you, sometimes, depending on the magnitude of it, we don't even see everything going on because
Right.
we're so focused on what we're doing. One example was when we're at the Pentagon, the president came up there and they lowered the flag for him and everything. I was so busy, I didn't know the president was there. All I thought was a bunch of firemen and military guys having trouble figuring out how to put the flag on the building. I didn't know they were doing it for the president at the time because we're so busy. And I wasn't able to even focus on New York. My wife kept calling me up and giving me updates on when they'd rescue a firefighter or something in New York because I wasn't even able to pay attention to that. Another funny one is down in Katrina. We got in there and I think we were a couple days into it, and I said, "Hey guys, we need more help." I said, "We had a bunch of teams that were, staging up in Mississippi. Why don't we get them down?" And they go, "Oh, John, you didn't know Mississippi got hit too." I'm like, "Oh, Mississippi got hit." I was so busy on New Orleans,
Right.
that I didn't realize that Mississippi got the heck knocked out of
They
them
sure
too.
did.
So you kind of focus in on what your job is and how you deal with it, and our team comes in with a certain focus what we do. And luckily, I've gotten to work at the team level, but I've also been at the management group that oversees all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, to me, is kind of neat because you see the overall inner workings of how it all works together between the feds and the state and the locals and then the teams and everything. So it's been very rewarding to see all that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You talked about the coordination with other communities, other agencies, but to go into such a widespread disaster situation and to see the collaboration and the coordination between so many individuals, so many organizations from across the country, that's got to be very rewarding to see all that come together.
When it comes together good, it is. And then I've seen it really come together well. Usually what we'll do is we'll have certain organizations that we work with. The Border Patrol officers and some of them, they provide our security, and Coast Guard and things like that. But we'll go in and kind of divide up the disaster and give each one of us different parts of it to manage. So it's a little easier for us to manage instead of trying to think of the whole severity of it.
Wow. And I think you're being very kind. There are times when it works out very well. There's times it can be a little bit less than, right?
A little bit less. Did I mention I went to Katrina?
Indeed. So when we think about back here in Collierville, what are your main goals for Collierville Fire and Rescue over the next few years under your leadership?
So, first I mentioned we're going through a lot of growth and development. And, obviously, probably my top priority right now is making sure that we have a heck of an ambulance service.
Mm-hmm.
We have one that everyone is so proud of, and I know as soon as you turn it over to the firefighters, they're going to do a good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they are doing a great job with it. So my job is to support them, make sure they have everything they can to do a great service with it. We've also got a lot of retirements coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So succession planning is going to be important. Preparing those next officers to take over. Also, we're building a new fire station, so getting that built,
Mm-hmm.
and then also having the personnel for it. Recruiting is getting very tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of challenge for people that want to go into this career. I don't think a lot of them realize what a great career this could be.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get that message out. So that's a big goal for me. And you know, I hate to say it, but for lack of term, developing that culture of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be really proud of the service level they provide, and that's an expectation. That's
Mm-hmm.
not a goal, but it's an expectation.
Sure.
And I want to develop that in all of them out there.
Well, you certainly did in Germantown. I have no doubt that you're going to bring that here at Collierville. And so, again, we're so proud. So we talked about the amazing things that you've done as a firefighter, as a leader, the task force. Talk a little bit about the balance that how do you balance the demands of being a fire chief with your own personal time and your own personal wellness?
Well, I've been doing this a little while, so I've had a little experience, and so I've found that one of the big things that helps me out is I've got a great support system at home.
Mm-hmm.
Family that's very supportive, wife that's very supportive. That helps out a lot. Also, having a great staff to work with you. I make sure we all know there's no stabbing in the back. We're all here to take care of each other. With one of us drops the ball, the other one's pick it up and help. So
there we go.
Trying to take care of each other. The firefighters are great. That I kind of brag that they go out and do all these great things, and I take all the credit for it.
Of course.
but they do some great things and make us look good. And it was interesting. I've been on call 24/7, probably the majority of my life.
Sure.
And so you rarely really unplug. This actually past weekend I went to a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Jumped up and ran. Left a dinner at my mom's to go to the fire. but you do that, so you don't really fully unplug, because you always have that in the back. But it takes more. I think for me, it's if I can go out there and take a fly rod out in the middle of a stream for a few days with my brothers and our boys or something, that helps. Or just hanging out at the beach. Sometimes I can get away from it and reduce it, but that's about the only time I can truly unplug.
Love it. Love it. So you've talked about all these great things. What do you think has been the most rewarding experience that you've had as a fire chief?
There's been several of them. I hate to say, when you see your firefighters save a friend's life, you're there with them, and you work this guy that and you save his life, and then you get to chat with him about it later.
Wow.
That's pretty rewarding. One of them was in your neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty cool. Seeing the accolades that come in, those some of them will bring you to tears, and some of them they're so heartfelt when you have someone that tells you how much they appreciate the firefighters taking care of their father on his last day, and how great a job they did. Things like that are so rewarding to me, and the guys are doing it, but it's so rewarding to me to see them do that kind of thing. Also, for me is seeing firefighters be successful in their career, trying to help them grow, understand how to become the officers that I want to see them become, and that's really cool to me, is to see that. And now I can look back at so many officers. There's other chiefs out here now across the state that came up under me. Now we're good buddies and we have the little pack, but there's guys that have moved up, and I hope that I had something to do with helping them get to those positions. And then obviously you mentioned the disasters. Some of those disaster experiences are real rewarding when I look back at them and think we did some really good stuff back
Just
then.
great stuff. Well, at the very first question we asked about, 3 words to describe John Selberg, and you talked about compassion. There's no question that you have great passion for what you do, and we're so blessed that you have that. So Of all things that you've done, and everything that's about what you're about, what does success look like for John Selberg?
You know, I have a pretty good internal satisfaction,
Hmm.
but for me, you know, it's going to be going back to those firefighters that I've worked with that are thankful that I was there to help them.
Hmm.
That's one of the things that's going to be really rewarding to me. That I hope to do here. That they were glad that I came over and spent some time with them and kind of helped them out with going the way their careers need to go and their lives need to go. Also, you know, if the community realizes that I did some great things and
Hmm.
left some things that will really take care of the community in the future, those are probably the two biggest things for me.
Well, and I would tell you, there is a concept out there that I would deeply believe in the idea of both success and significance. And and there are people out there who are successful but really aren't that significant. But what you do, I've never met a person who is significant who is not successful. And to me, what you're talking about, the impact that you're having on other people's lives, that's really being significant in their lives. And that truly, in my world, is the definition of success.
Thank you.
John, here we are in this amazing Collierville High School. What message would you have for the students of Collierville High School when it comes to leadership?
Well, you know, some people kind of have leadership, you know, intrinsically in them.
Hmm.
You know, you'll see it when you're on the sports teams. You'll see those guys that step up and take the lead on stuff, but others can learn it.
Hmm.
You know, a big part of it is knowing your job. You know, having those core skills, having that training and education, knowing how to you know, step up and support the organization, whatever we're trying to do, and make it successful. You know, also leadership is supporting those around you. It's not just
Hmm.
about you, and that's what leadership is leading the others and helping them to grow and develop. And when you show that you care about them and that you're really there for them, a lot of times they're going to follow you because they have trust in you. So
Absolutely.
you know, that's part of it. Is I think leaders need to be for the team, not just for themselves. And you know, something else I've also learned is particularly in the fire service, there's your formal and informal leaders. You know, you've got your guys that have what we call the bugles. We got the bugles, but there's other guys that may not even have the bugles, but you know them in an organization. Those guys that one day they'll have the bugles,
Hmm.
but they're the ones that people go to because they know they have respect and trust, and they know they'll lead them in the right direction. So I often look to those informal leaders in the organization too. I don't like to look just at those guys that already have the rank.
Love it. Love it. So, last question. Years from now, when you reflect back on your career, what would you hope would be the legacy of John Selberg?
You know, I hope that I left the community with a better response capability than it was when I started. You know, and when I talk about community, you know, I'm even working at the state level on some programs that will also benefit us here locally. But you know, I hope that I've done something to leave that mark, that they're really proud of what they have. And again, you know, I hope that the firefighters feel I have a positive impact on their careers.
Well, of that I have absolutely no doubt. Uh, John, this has been such a pleasure. I was so excited to get that you agreed to join us today, sharing your inspirational journey, the impact that your leadership has had, not only here in Collierville, but in Germantown, throughout your career and across America. The work that you've done in emergency services is incredibly and truly remarkable. The commitment that you have to enhancing public safety and preparedness, that be prepared thing, is absolutely evident. And so everything you do is really, to me, is a manifestation of the character and the commitment that you have and the dedication you have to your career. And so thank you so much for what you've done to really help make Collierville a safer community, and what you continue to do for the Fire and Rescue Department here in Collierville. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely. We've been blessed to meet many examples of everyday heroes, from civic leaders to teachers to community volunteers. But only a very sacred few actually risk their lives each and every day to keep us safe. Our military leaders, enlisted personnel, our police officers, and of course, Our firefighters put their lives on the line every day as our first line of defense against tragedy and loss. Dan Felix, the fire chief for the U.S. Forest Service, so brilliantly described the world of firefighting when he said, in fire, you can plan everything out to the minute. In a minute before that, everything changes. Our society has far too often confused the concept of heroism with sports achievement or popular fame. But our truest heroes are those brave men and women who operate far from the limelight. Christopher Reeves, who played the ultimate cinematic hero in Superman, so eloquently stated that I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Actor and director Kevin Costner beautifully said that real heroes are men and women who fall and fail and are flawed, but win out in the end because they stayed true to their ideals and beliefs and commitments. But perhaps the most fitting quote came from Fire Chief Edward F. Crocker, who said that I have no ambition in the world but one, and that is to be a fireman. The position may, in the eyes of some, appear to be a lowly one, but we know the work. We who know the work, which a fireman has to do, believe that his is a noble calling. Our proudest moment is to save lives. Under the impulse of such thoughts, the nobility of the occupation thrills us and stimulates us to deeds of daring, even at the supreme sacrifice. For many of us, the most enduring memory of the past 25 years was the horror of the 9/11 attack on America. It was a moment that forever changed our world. On that terrible day of tragedy, we all remember the lives that were lost in the World Trade Towers, the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We remember the horror of watching those magnificent buildings fall to the earth, taking with them thousands of innocent lives. One of my most enduring memories was watching as hundreds of firefighters rushed into those buildings to save as many lives as could be rescued. Survivors still tell the tale in the stories of watching those incredibly brave firefighters climb up the stairs of the towers as the survivors descended to safety. 343 firefighters and paramedics died that day. And over the past 23 years, an equal number of firefighters and paramedics have died from 9/11 related illnesses. Those firefighters and paramedics made the supreme sacrifice because they believed that their mission was to save lives. Their bravery is the enduring legacy of that fateful day. Tennessee Task Force 1 was on the scene within hours of that attack, assisting with the efforts to save lives and recover the remains of loved ones. John Selberg was among those who made the sacrifice to serve after 9/11. John Selberg is a hero. He has built a career forged in courage and commitment and character. I am very blessed to call him a friend. Our community is so incredibly blessed to have John's leadership and dedication to the people of our community. God bless all our first responders. They are our nation's truest heroes. And that is my 2 cents. Until next time, I'm your host, David Pickler. Thank you for watching Bull TV, where together we deliver solutions for a stronger community.